This video is about the brass instruments in the orchestra. There are four, starting with the highest range, the trumpet. Then you've got the French horn, the trombone, and finally in the lowest range, the tuba. To make sound in all of these instruments, you buzz your lips into the instrument using a mouthpiece, just like these, going left to right, trumpet, French horn, trombone, and tuba. Please note there is not a euphonium or baritone in an orchestra. Those are only used in bands. So we're starting off with the trumpet, a great instrument. Here's a picture of it. It uses 3 valves to send the sound through different lengths of tubing.
My name is Alistair Mackey. I'm one of the principal trumpets in the Philharmonia Orchestra. I've always loved the trumpet, and to play it in a symphony orchestra is a tremendously exciting thing to do. Composers often use you at the biggest moments of the piece, the most exciting moments they give to the trumpet, and you sit there high above the orchestra and your sound can ride across the wonderful sound that's created by your colleagues around you. If you're a trumpet player, you vibrate the air inside of your instrument, and you do that by vibrating your lips, like this. The next stage is to get a mouthpiece. And what happens now is this. The trumpet itself, in some ways, really just amplifies what is happening there. This is a C trumpet. Different trumpets sound slightly different. They amplify that basic vibration in different ways. But the pitch of the trumpet is fundamentally changed by this tension in the lips, which creates a higher or a lower vibration. Now what the valves do is this is a trumpet in the key of C, and if you can imagine, the air travels through here and then comes straight out the bell. If you use a valve, what you are in effect doing is adding on a piece of tubing. So the valve acts a little bit like a junction, a railway junction, where the air is diverted through an extra tube. And as you can see, the smallest tube is on the second valve here, and that will lower the pitch by a semitone. The first valve has this tube here, which lowers the pitch by a whole tone.
Here's a great example of some beautiful trumpet playing, the beginning of pictures at an exhibition.
So what trumpet players have developed is double and triple tonguing. So the T sound or the D sound from the tongue, and then a G sound in the throat. And each of these sounds causes the air to stop and then be released, giving you a nice clean start. So we call this double tonguing. And basically, rather than saying t t t t t, we say digga 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 da, or ticka ticka ta. And for triple tonguing, for triplets and sextuplets, we use this da da ga da da ga da. Now, if you get it right through an instrument, you shouldn't really be able to tell whether I'm single tonguing, double tonguing, or triple tonguing. One other thing which brass players and wind players in general have developed is called circular breathing. And circular breathing, what happens then is you catch air in your cheeks, and as you blow the air out of your cheeks, you breathe in through your nose. This here is a piccolo trumpet, and it's pitched exactly an octave higher than this trumpet here. And although you can't really play any higher on a piccolo trumpet than you can on a large B flat trumpet, it does give you a little bit more accuracy in that upper register. I'll play a little bit of Bach's Brandenburg Concerto No. 2.
Just a little aside, it was that specific tune that Paul McCartney heard one time and thought that the piccolo trumpet was awesome and asked George Martin to write a tune for the piccolo trumpet in Penny Lane. So we're now moving into the French horn, the second highest brass instrument in the orchestra. Here is a picture of it, and we will hear somebody talk about it.
Hello, my name's Katie and I'm one of the two principal horns of the Philharmonia Orchestra. So I'm going to talk to you about the French horn. Now, the horn is quite special in that, firstly, it's played with the left hand, so the right hand. That is because a while back, before the valves were invented a couple of hundred years ago, we used to change the note with our hand. So like this. That doesn't really give you an even tone, so they added some valves so we can get all the notes without having that fuzzy sound. Another difference is that it's conical, so it starts smaller here and winds around and eventually gradually gets bigger until you get to the bell. So that's why it's slightly different to other brass instruments. Before valves were invented, you couldn't play chromatically. You could just play the harmonic series, which the horn and any brass instrument is based on, or you could play with your hand slightly, getting a couple of notes in between. But now we have the valves, we can play chromatically from the very bottom to the very top of our register. So there are two main composers who spring to mind when I think about people who are excellent horn writers. The first, from a while back, is Mozart. He had a very good friend called Joseph Leutgeb, and he wrote 4 concertos for him, one of which was made very famous by Flanders and the Swan, which goes a bit like this.
Although most of the time the horn section is asked to play big, grand, sweeping sections, sometimes it does get the solo. Very often when a brass player is just sitting for a long stretch of time, his instrument becomes cold and that affects the intonation of the instrument. So often they will start blowing very, very quietly into the instrument to heat it up. We now come to the trombone. You get different pitches by elongating or shortening the entire length of the tube using the slide. And finally, the lowest brass instrument, the tuba.
I'm Steve Campbell, and I'm the principal tuba of the Minnesota Orchestra. The tuba, a lot of times, is considered an oompa instrument. You'll hear the tuba do a lot of this kind of stuff. And And that's all fun. And I know I'm supposed to be a tuba player because I like doing that. I like being the, you know, it's a tuba player's job a lot of times to keep the rhythm, be a part of the rhythm section of 80 or 90 people on stage. But we do get to play the tune sometimes. Here's one that I particularly like. It's from Prokofiev's Fifth Symphony.
I'm going to finish the video on brass instruments with several examples from the orchestra literature. Here's a great example of the French horns playing a soaring melody over the strings. Here's a great example of the French horns playing something very brassy. It almost sounds like trumpets. And finally, a piece that many of you may recognize, even if you've never been able to put a name to it.